Hey, y'all remember them? Y'all miss them? I do too, but I fear we might not be seeing much more of them. Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. Today we are here and we're talking about a show we have not talked about in, I want to say, about 9 months. If my timeline on my YouTube videos are right. And that show is Euphoria. Now, the last time I talked about Euphoria, I was talking about how I was nervous for season 3. I was kind of scared for season 3 because of news that had come out around that time about Barbie Ferreira, aka Kat, leaving the show, them moving up the timelines and doing a time skip and then axing the time skip and then bringing back the time skip, but in like a different way, among a lot of other things. And if you have not seen that video, I definitely recommend you go and watch it. But it's almost been a year since then and we still have not gotten confirmation over season 3 of Euphoria and when that's supposed to come out. And there have been a lot more developments about this show since that last video. And at this point, I'm just fearful that season 3 just might not happen in general. And we're gonna talk about why that is, because if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that we love Euphoria around here. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about why it's been taking so long for season 3 to come out, the cast drama that's been going on behind the scenes, the possible exit of some of the cast, the changes in the cast for season 3, as well as getting into at the end why I think that if we do end up getting a next season, why it should be the final season of Euphoria. A hot take, I know, but I'll explain. But before we get into that, if you are new to the channel and like all things TV, pop culture, commentary, and fashion, then be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the content that I have coming out on this channel. I post twice a week along with 2 additional exclusive videos for channel members, so you don't want to miss any of the content that we have coming out over here. Also, while you're at it, it means so much if you leave a like on this video because it helps out so much with the YouTube algorithm, as well as following me on my socials at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I'm doing a full rebrand for my short form content, so if you like more lifestyle, fashion sort of content, then you can go and check that out because I have a lot of cool stuff coming up soon. But self-promo aside, let's talk about why it's been taking so long for us to get season 3 of Euphoria. Now, people are always talking, but what happens when the talk isn't cheap and it is what it is? What I mean by this is Euphoria season 3. It's been 2 years. 2 whole years since we've seen anything from Euphoria, which in the time span for modern shows is a very long time because usually a year is to be expected for future seasons of shows, but 2 years is pushing it. And according to the information that's out now as of recording this video, there has been no filming done yet for Euphoria season 3. I believe the most that's been done is just Sam Levinson himself writing scripts for this next season, but let's say that optimistically their schedules somehow align and they're able to film by summer. We're not getting that season until at least the beginning of 2025, which will make it 3 years since the last time we've seen from Euphoria. And you may be asking, why is it taking so long? Why has it been so long since the last season of Euphoria? And to that, there are actually a couple of reasons. One of them being is that the cast of Euphoria now just have so many conflicting schedules because let's face it, Euphoria blew up a lot of talent from this show. For great reason too, because the entire cast of Euphoria is incredibly talented. You have breakout stars like Sydney Sweeney, Hunter Schafer, and Jacob Elordi who are literally everywhere now, and for good reason. Then you also have the heavy hitter Zendaya, who is booked and busy always. So especially since it's been so long since the filming of last season, it would take some time to coordinate all these actors' schedules because they're booked and busy now. And Jacob Elordi had like 3-4 movies come out in the past year. At least, I think. So that's just to say that there's a lot riding on that as well, to actually put together some time for everyone to dedicate to Euphoria in between their other projects they have going on. But also something that I feel like really delayed Euphoria was the strikes last year. The 2023 writers and actors strike put a hold on the entire entertainment industry. So even if Euphoria was slated to start filming last year or early this year, all of that got pushed back because no one was able to work for over a quarter of last year. So of course that would cause delays, not just for Euphoria, but for pretty much every project in Hollywood right now. And then you also have the cast drama and just general unfortunate events that have been going on with the Euphoria cast since the wrapping of season 2. And let's get into that. Now for this next part of this video, we're going to handle it with a little bit of care because the themes of this are very tragic and sad. But last year we lost an amazing person and an amazing and important member of the cast of Euphoria in Angus Cloud, aka Fezco on Euphoria. Angus unfortunately passed away in July of 2023 due to an accidental OD. And his situation was really tragic because he ended up passing a little bit over a month after his father passed away. And his mom's been on record saying that Angus had been going through a lot of pain, both physically and mentally, for a lot of his life, saying that he first started using substances after a freak accident of getting trapped in a construction site at the age of 15. And he started using substances then to help deal with the pain. And she states that, in quote, "That's really what started his seeking behavior, which is really sad in general, and I really hope that he's been resting in peace. But the loss of Angus Cloud has been definitely felt around the world, and I'm sure especially with his castmates. And in light of this tragedy, there's been a lot of discourse online about whether or not it would be right to even continue the show without Angus. And for the sake of this video, and out of respect for Angus and his family, I don't feel like it's my place to really talk about whether or not to really delve into that and talk about that, because I feel like that's kind of besides the point and overall kind of insensitive. But I felt like the context was worth mentioning. There have also been actors on this show commenting on the state of Euphoria season 3, namely one being Jake Belordi, aka Nate Jacobs, where he was recently on Jimmy Fallon talking about how he essentially wants season 3 of Euphoria to be filmed as soon as possible, joking that if they don't, that he's gonna have like a bad back walking down the hallway, which is incredibly unserious, but like real, because realistically, how long are we all gonna wait for the next season of Euphoria? And he also addressed like the time skip allegations, and apparently he didn't confirm it, but he did say that it would make sense to have a time skip because it'd be kind of jarring to just like have 3 years go by in the real life and to have the show still set in high school, just picking up where the show left off. So again, that will be interesting to see how that plays out, but it's just so real knowing that everyone involved wants this to actually happen, to come through and to get it over with, you know? And then even more recently, Dominic Fike, aka Elliot, hopped on the scene and really just started breaking down the behind the scenes of Euphoria season 2 that he was on, as well as alluded to him just like not coming back to the show. He recently spoke to Variety where he was talking about his experience struggling with sobriety in real life, and then also playing a character that was struggling with sobriety and being in an environment where themes of addiction and substance abuse were being depicted and highlighted. And he shared that Sam Levinson tried to hire him a sober coach to help him stay clean in real life while shooting the show. But then he said that that plan sort of failed because he says in quote that it was a random lady that I'd never relate to. We had nothing in common. Going as far as saying that we didn't come from the same places or have the same problems. So it was hard to take advice from someone like that or to give it, which is real, because from POC to POC, what that sounds like to me, the sober coach that they brought on, no shade to her at all, but was probably a privileged, possibly white lady that he couldn't necessarily relate to or connect with because they don't share like the same backgrounds, which as a Black person, a minority who seeked out counseling before in the form of therapy, makes sense, because when you're trying to work through stuff like that, in his case having to do with substance issues, you kind of want and need someone that can actually understand and connect with you and doesn't seem and just gets it in a way where you don't feel like you have to explain yourself or explain why things are the way they are for you or your community. So I get that portion, and it sucks that he wasn't able to have that sort of resource while he was filming Euphoria. And of all things that I could knock Sam Levinson for, I can't really knock him for this, because at least he tried. And let's be honest, I wasn't expecting Sam Levinson necessarily, of all people, to know this. Although I will say it's interesting, because if we're looking at this show, did they not make a point to have Rue's sponsor towards sobriety to also be a Black person who had similar traumatic experiences to relate with her with? I don't know. But then again, I wasn't there. I don't know how things actually went down. So it was to say. But what's really interesting and takes us into our next part of the video is that Dominic says that he's unsure whether or not his character Elliot is going to return for a 3rd season, because he said that while it would be dope to be back on the show, he doesn't really talk to anyone from that scene anymore. And that really got me thinking, because if Dominic Fike doesn't come on that show, who is really left with the cast? Like, who's still going to be on this show? Because at this point, it's really up in the air, because we have people leave the show for so many different reasons. I thought it'd be interesting to give us a little visual, a little tier list, if you will, to help us figure out for sure who we can expect to still be in Euphoria season 3, as well as, at this point, who's not. So as you can see here, we have a couple of categories. We have the category on top for people that are definitely going to be in and confirmed for this season, that are definitely staying, or at least in my head are most likely staying in this season. Then we have people that are out, where they left the show, basically written out of the script at the end of season 2 or whatever, as well as the 3rd tier at the end being just question mark for people that could really go either way. We haven't really gotten any confirmation, and it's really a toss up whether they'll still be in the show. But first, Cal Jacobs. Do we think? I feel like Cal Jacobs is definitely not confirmed to be in. I feel like he's definitely a question mark, because if they're going to do a time skip, I don't necessarily see his relevance in the plot anymore. I feel like they'll either have him on for like one episode, just sharing like, oh yeah, here's what Nate's doing now a couple years down the line because of his dad and the stuff that went down with his dad, and they'll show what his dad's up to. But other than that, I don't really see him being a part of the show. So yeah, I don't think that he's gonna be in it. Kat for sure is out because Barbie left the show. Faye, I can't say that Faye is for sure in, because I feel like the way that they're going to do season 3 is that they're going to like pretty much retcon, or at least underplay or explain away the raid scene and all the people involved in that storyline. I don't know if Faye is gonna be back. I'm leaning towards out, but I think I'm just gonna put her at question mark. Hunter for sure. Jules for sure is gonna be in the show. Cassie for sure. Now Elliot, what we were just talking about, it's really unsure, but probably unlikely. So I'm gonna put him at the bottom of question mark, question mark, question mark. I actually don't know if he'd be back. Because if I remember correctly, I think they all just left his character at the end of the season. Ashtray, unfortunately, is out. He was out at the end of season 2. Maddie, I feel like has to be in because she's like the draw of Euphoria. Like I feel like Alexa Demi is going to come back. I feel like we can't have it without Alexa. Nate Jacobs is going to be in, provided that they start filming within the next year. So Jacob doesn't have back problems. Ali, I'm unsure. If they're doing a time skip, I feel that Ali is going to be in. I feel that he's going to be in. You want to know why? Because I think that he won an award for this show as like best guest actor. And if they're doing a time skip where Rue's like now an adult, I feel like we're gonna need more of his character, especially since him and Rue's mom are kind of possibly doing a thing. So yeah, I feel like he might be in. I feel like he's definitely in. Kat's ex-boyfriend, I feel like is going to be out if Barbie's out. And Lexi is definitely going to stay in. And Storm isn't on this tier list. Again, I didn't make this tier list. I would have added Storm. Storm, aka Gia, yeah, she's definitely in. I feel like she's going to come back for a season 3. But yeah, I feel like this is the list. Out of the cast, 7 people won't be on the show and 8 are going to stay. And that's not even counting McKay. McKay is definitely out, which would make it 8 and 8, which is wild. So that's pretty much half the cast. Gag. And with all that said, now I want to get into my hypothesis, and not so much hypothesis, or just general hypothesis for why I think if we do get a 3rd season, it should be the final season. For one, I mentioned this before, but like the cast is just doing bigger and better things. Like just think about it. Sydney Sweeney, booked and busy as ever. She's doing all these ads. She's in a ton of different movies that have been released and that are slated to be released. Jacob Elordi is becoming Hollywood's it boy. He's finally stepping into his movie star bag, and might I say, I am so proud of him because coming from Euphoria, I watched his like 24 hours with Jacob Elordi. I'm not sure if it was with Vogue or who it was with, but I remember distinctly in the video, he talked about his dream being like a movie star, and he wants to be like a main movie star because like being on a TV show is cool and all, but being in a movie is like more historic and has like more solidity, I guess. So just seeing his gradual transition into that and just him living in that manifestation of the life he was talking about, it's just so fulfilling. I'm just so proud of Jacob Elordi. Shout out to him. I mean, like, and also there's like Zendaya. And like, do I need to explain Zendaya? Like the girl stays with a job on her, multiple actually. Whether that be acting, she has that movie Challengers coming up, in Dune 2, to modeling, to just being a fashion it girl. And God forbid we let her back in the studio, because I'm not letting y'all forget. Replay went quadruple platinum in my household when I was growing up. Like the girl is just holistically talented. So yeah, she's gonna be busy doing things. Hunter Schafer also getting huge movie roles, like she was just in the Hunger Games movie. She also still kills it being a model and being in the fashion industry. Dominic Fike being a successful musician as well as an actor, and Alexa Demi being the elusive icon that she is. Like I feel like for better or for worse, the cast is outgrowing Euphoria, and if we continue having seasons after season 3, I feel like the gaps between seasons are also going to just still be longer because it's going to be harder to work around people's schedules. And with the topic of gaps in mind brings my second point for why I think season 3 should be the last season, and it's that we're aging, we're getting old. It's been 2 years and probably gonna be 3 years in between seasons from season 2 to season 3. And we keep on the schedule of waiting 2, maybe 3 years. A lot of the original audience that started with Euphoria are gonna be well into their 20s by then, some even in their 30s, which even if the show does grow up with us and they do the time skip, I don't know if the appeal is gonna be the same moving into a season 4 or a 5. Which brings me to the last point, in that I feel like if we go on past season 3, we're going to be beating a dead horse. With the way that things have been ahead of season 3, this kind of feels like Euphoria's victory lap anyway, with all the exits, losses, and changes to the plot. And it really just be a shame to watch the show go out and be milked for content when it could have had a decent ending at a decent stopping point, especially when the show now is revered as being such an iconic piece of media and just general quality television. Like I go as far to say that Euphoria is like a time marker. Like it is our iconic coming of age television show. And I feel like in 20 years, it's going to be revered as like the show of the times, you know? Like when you think of the shows that dictated like the 90s, early 2000s, like I feel like in the future when we look back on the late 2010s to early 2020s, Euphoria is going to be the staple piece of that era. It's going to be the aesthetic that people are going to be copying of the era, because like it's the aesthetic that people copied when the show was airing. So I just think that it's so important that we don't ruin that and allow it to have like that 3rd and final season where it can just end off being iconic instead of it being dragged out, and just later down the line we think of it as a show that like just dragged on too long. Like let's just avoid the elitification of Euphoria, you know? When the main cast is done, wrap the show. Don't introduce new bitches. Because if the show ends on a strong point, who's to say that we can't do a reboot or a spin-off series. I don't know, maybe following Rue's sister Gia or something in that universe. But yeah, I'm just really worried. I'm just hoping that season 3 actually does happen. And as a fan of the show, I hope that it's done well. Hopefully I'm wrong in being dramatic about like not knowing whether or not season 3 is going to come out. And I hope that when season 3 does come out, it's an absolute banger, because I will be tuned in and there will be many videos about it on this channel. But as far as a season 4 girl, I don't know about all that. But yeah, now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the state of Euphoria right now? Are you excited for a season 3? Do you even care anymore? Do you think that a season 3 is going to happen? And if it does, do you think that it should be the final season, or do you want it to continue past that? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. If you're new, consider subscribing. Leave a like on this video. Follow me on my socials at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Again, if you're interested in early and exclusive content, then consider clicking the join button to become a channel member today. Other than that, y'all, I have an emergency and I will see you in the next video. Peace.